Thanks for tuning into the channel today. Just thought I'd give you a quick look at the accessories before we go through them in detail. What I'm going to put on that V5 when I get it. So like I said, it hasn't arrived yet, but here's a quick look at the accessories before we go into it. Now I'm going to break this up into two parts. So this part here will be what I'm going to put on the bike when I actually get hold of it. So this will be the dress up and a few mods on it. And then part two will be what I'm going to show you how I'm going to transform the bike from a new bike to a really old looking bike. And the parts I'm going to use for that is, after I get over this stage, I'll drop it back to what it'd look like probably 30 or 40 years old, where going back 2 years or 3 years back, I bought I think a fair bit of stuff off a guy on one of the channels who had a C5 which had chucked it in at around about 80,000 kilometres, so they were very well worn, battered parts, and I'm going to swing those C5 parts onto this new bike, and that will be including front rear mudguards, side plates, all like that, air filters, things like that, exhaust, and it looks fairly battered. So I'll have a new bike then, born old, you could say. But at this stage, here's what we've got in the line. So if we were going back up here, first thing I bought for this bike was this nice new Royal Enfield keyring, which will come in handy. So you've probably heard of the old chicken head knob. Well, I did one of those going back I think about 3 years ago, so I'll do another one for this bike because the key on this one won't fit. Pretty sure it won't fit the new bike. So I'll put a pedestrian slicer on the front. Not exactly this one, I don't think I'll use this because I've ordered another one that says Bullet 500, so it's in the post at the moment, so it should be arriving. I'll swing a headlight grill into it, so that'll come in handy. I always think they look alright on these classic bikes. Well, I shouldn't even be saying classic because this one I class as Bullet 500 because on the side casing it has actually got Bullet 500. So over in this area here, over the instrumentation, there's a little bit of a shroud over it sort of to stop a little bit of sunlight for getting into it, so I've never used one of them before, so I'll try it. We'll hit it with gel style grips. That may help vibes a bit if there's any of that hanging around on the bike, so that'll come in handy there. Over here we got the old 50 style ID number plate, rego plate, so that little disc there, tax disc, that'll come in handy, so I'll whip that down the side of the barrel of the motor. So here we've got the blanking plates there for the mirrors, and I've got these really good mirrors, bar end ones, what I've used a couple of times on previous bikes. That works well. If you look at vibration on these bikes, well, see these ones, these are called Jetton bar end weights. They weigh 1 pound each. They're heavy duty stuff, they work well. I may swing to this one here and rip the instrumentation out and replace it with this GPS Speedo, which I find is really accurate and doesn't move around like the other ones, and does a really good Speedo and naturally picks up its source for a GPS reading, and like I said, very accurate. Bit hard to fit because you've got to pull out the old Speedo and then enlarge the hole a bit, but apart from that, I've had it in previous bikes and it works really well. I'll probably put in the engine bars. They look pretty good on this bike. Got the tank pads there ready to go in case I decide I'm going to use those. I also, and it's a must for one of these classic 500s or any of the other bikes, I went straight in and ordered 4 new fuse blocks, and as soon as I get the bike, the old fuse blocks will be pulled out and I'll replace them with new ones just so there's no trouble in that line there. So while we're at it, this is what they call an air pump delete kit from Yss Shocks, and that comes in handy, you know, when you run a sports exhaust or anything like that from a bike, and this bike will be running a sports exhaust, and the air pump is virtually that little tube thing that hangs out the front of the motor on the Euro 4 bike, so it eliminates that totally, and it's like a blanking plug. So there's your blanking plug there. This is something different. I just bought this in from Yss Shocks. This is a Monza style gas cap, and that should look pretty good on a V5. I'll probably go for an indicator change. These are the bullet style ones compared to the big ones that come with it, so it'll be something different there. Got the 4 of those there ready to go. You've probably seen the other one. There's my little oil filler cap, so that's good there. This is another must here, the NGK spark plugs. Well, they'll go straight in the bike before we even take it anywhere. We've got a heel and toe shifter here. I find they're alright on the bike, so I'm getting used to those now. Now, I almost forgot this fly screen, what I bought from Hitchcock's. I'll be using that on the bike itself. It performs really good. I always thought that this fly screen on the bike under say slightly windy conditions, or even under ideal conditions, the bike was always good for anything up to 5 kilometres an hour quicker. So I tested this out on a couple of YouTube clips where I actually thought it was around 5 mile an hour faster. So it cut through the wind really well, and more importantly, if you've got a sports exhaust on, because of the shape of that fly screen up here, it belts the exhaust note back up from the motor, back up into the area up above you around there, and you can hear the exhaust note quite well. So I really like that fly screen. I also think on these new bikes, especially for somebody just buying the bike, a tacho is a really good idea, and the ideal running into speed on this bike is 3,000 revs, and it's easy to pick up on these bikes using this tacho, and it's a very simple thing to install. And after you finish running the bike in, you can just take it off. Like I said, it's about a 5-minute install, and once that, you get the ideal running revs, which is 3,000. This is another good one too. See these magnetic earth magnets? Just put them on your sump plug straight away as soon as you get the bike. Pick up that little bit of extra crap from the magnet. This is a fin vaporizer. If you look through it, you can see the fin there on your manifold there. These are really good to use if you're using really poor E10, E15 fuel. The bike will run better with that particular unit on it, on a stock standard motor, and it'll go really well. So while we're over here, I'll also be running on this bike later on a Powertronic ECU piggyback. Not only that, I've also got the switchable map for it, so I can switch from map 1 to 2 on the fly, depending on what mod I'm going to try on this bike. So that's all set up. Also the sports air cleaner to go with it. And I'll be running my favourite exhaust here. This is the one I get the best bang for the buck for, and it's got a good sports exhaust note, which you'll find out later on. And this time I end up buying a new heat shield for it, so at least it covers up the ugly join what they've got on those B and C5s. That D handle, I thought it'd look alright on it too, so it was just something I just picked up. By now you're well aware of the seat, what I just purchased, so that's going to be on the bike. It'll look fairly interesting, I think, a solo seat on a B5. I'll see how these go. I think these could fit. These are the Yss Shocks with five adjustments on the preload, so I think they could go on. We'll see what happens in that one. I'll be running a rear rack, but like the front mudguard, I'll have to drill into the rear mudguard, and I'll have to drill into the front mud to put the number plate on, so that's a little bit of a drama there. Then I'll be going for chain guard there. That should fit. It's fit on my last Euro 4, so it should fit on this. And I'll be able to swing to a stop tail light. I think that looks pretty smart. I had one of those on a previous bike, so I decided to buy another one of those. Then followed on by my number plate, the acorn bolts there, so they look pretty good too on your number plate. They sort of look period. So guys, that looks like that actually covered all my accessories on this part 1 of this one, and looks like when the time comes and the bike does arrive, and maybe that'll be next week, it'll be a fair workout fitting all these. So once again, thanks for tuning in, taking a look. If you're interested in subscribing, please do, and I will catch up with you at a later date. And cheers for now.